It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for October 31st, 2022. Happy Halloween, everybody. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, a major PlayStation game is leaking early. Call of Duty bounces back, and pour one out for Twitter's #1 video game news account. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Rachel Kaser, everybody. Rachel, how's it going?
Happy Halloween, everyone. I am the incomparable Morticia Adams.
Yeah, and I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi, I guess. I don't know. I have this cloak I got a long time ago. You put a lot of work in. I threw this on literally 30 seconds before we started. So everyone,
please. You say I put a lot of effort, but I think I'm just naturally this pale.
Listen, like, aren't we all?
Here's where the makeup starts and here's where it ends. So it's like maybe 2 shades of difference. So, and admittedly, this look is more Carolyn Jones than Angelica Houston, but my trigger phrase when I want to get into character as Morticia is still, but Debbie, pastels?
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a movie, that Addams Family one in the 90s. Even I like the second one, too, but they're both very good. It's a good vibe that they strike. Well, you know, it's Halloween today. It's going to be a little bit spooky. I'm going to go trick-or-treating tonight with the kids. You got any other plans for today? It's a Halloween on a Monday. Or did you have your parties over the weekend or anything?
Yeah, and we also, they're having, in our apartment building, they're having a special, like, Halloween thing where you can put, like, a special thing on your doorknob. And that way the kids know which doors are giving away candy and which ones aren't.
Cool.
It's a nice, safe thing, keeping things within the apartment complex.
Yeah, that's nice. Absolutely. It's our first year on the street doing trick-or-treating, so I'm not sure what to expect, but we're ready. We're ready for as many kids that might come. Of course, honestly, we're going to be gone with our kids for most of the time, so I'm just going to put it in a bowl on the front porch and hope for the best. And, you know, what can you do? At a certain point, I abdicate my responsibilities here. This is no longer my problem. The bowl is God on this porch. And there's nothing I can do about it.
I have a giant bowl of candy, so those little gremlins better come around. Otherwise, I'm going to be eating Skittles for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to work for me, too. All right, let's get into this mess. Before we do that, let's explain what we do here. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news, the catch-up, where we discuss the biggest topics consuming the lives of gamers everywhere, and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with a retailer has released God of War Ragnarok up to 2 weeks early, and Cory Barlog isn't pleased. So apparently, Rachel, Target has just started selling the game. And that's weird.
That sounds like a recipe for a lawsuit.
Yeah, like I wonder, like, what is the potential penalty there? Like, would it be worth it to Sony and or PlayStation to sue their partner there? Or, I mean, is it even something that is breaking the contract? You would assume that there would be like an agreement in place, but maybe it's just like, oh no, we put a date on a box and we hope that you're going to stand by that because you're our partner and wouldn't want to screw us over. But apparently, a lot of people just going to Target picking the game up.
I mean, when you know, I both know this. When we get a copy of the game early, you know, we have a contract with Sony to not talk about or spoil these things ahead of time. But in practice, there's really nothing stopping us if we wanted to. We would just hurt our relationship with Sony by doing that.
Exactly, because that contract is just verbal. It's not anything. Most of the time, for most companies, Sony included, it's just a verbal over email. Maybe you're clicking through a Google Doc that says that here's the things you're agreeing to, but it's all just handshake agreements, short of an NDA. Like, these things aren't non-disclosure agreements except for like 2K and stuff. And so it's so you would hurt your arrangement, which is, you know, what happened with Mike and me when we got the Nintendo jail and put you in Nintendo jail as well.
Unfortunately, yes.
So, you know, that's the reprisal there. If it's a retail partner, it just feels like, I mean, you're not going to not ship the next game to Target because you need those sales, I would assume. So it's strange. But also, the big thing here is this is, of course, annoying the developers who have been working on this game for years. And now anyone can go out and not even, a lot of people are able to go out, find the game, start playing, and potentially begin spoiling the story, which seems to be very spoilable, because there's just a lot of things that seem to happen in that game that are big surprises, or the way that they actually play out are it's a little bit different than you might expect. So, yeah, you can see the frustration when Cory Barlog tweets about this, but this is also just going to keep happening, right?
Yeah, he's kind of over a barrel a little bit, because you can get mad at Target for doing it, but I mean, in practice, I joke there's a lawsuit coming, but that's probably not going to happen. So I don't know. You can't be mad at the consumers either, because they paid for the game
Sure. Oh,
fair and
yeah,
square.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's almost hard to find a single person to direct your anger at there.
Right, and that's why Cory Barlog, he went to Twitter. Let me actually bring this up, and he said, right now I can really understand the benefits of having just an installer on the physical disc. Shaking my head. And it's the kind of thing where, yeah, there is no one group to punish here. I mean, obviously they could have a stern talking to Target, but at the end of the day, you're talking about usually minimum wage employees, maybe a little bit more than minimum wage, effectively a sub living wage employee who is probably just putting it out there, not caring what the box says, because they got a million other things they have to do, kids destroying the toy aisle or whatever, and people checking out clothes and unfolding them, and they have to go back and forth. Like, they're busy with real things that they need to take care of. The concerns of a major corporation are probably not their concerns. So like, who do you really punish here? Well, there's no good answer there. So why don't we just figure out a way to avoid this in the future? And one way would be put out a disc. And you could send that to retailers, but the disc doesn't have the game on it. What it does have is an installer that will only work when the developers actually say, yes, you can now begin installing it. That is not a solution that many people would be happy with, but it would solve this problem, right?
It's true, it would. Although there's a part of me that thinks, once again, these people paid for the game fair and square. It's not their fault. The game is out there ahead of time.
Yes, and the people point out this is a Target, not all Targets. Yeah, that sounds right. Like, where this is not some corporate-wide mandated Target. Sell God of War Ragnarok early. Again, this is probably just one employee not paying attention to what the date on top of the box, which is usually how it works when I've seen those boxes at GameStop where, they just have the tape on them and the tape says don't open until this date, or don't put it on the shelves until this date. You could see how it'd be pretty easy to ignore that if you have other concerns going on.
Target usually locks new games inside a case too. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of curious. That means somebody had to unlock the case, pull the pull the game out, probably open a box that the game was in too. So there's a few steps involved here, but like they said, it was one Target. Like you said, probably one overworked manager is like, yeah, sure, whatever. Hand to to gamer, then they go off. They grab their prize and run to the cashier. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah, it's but the problem that people are dealing with now is, hey, I can't play this game now. I've been waiting years for it. I'm worried about the spoilers. You can go on YouTube, search God of War Ragnarok. Apparently, it's all over the place there now. So,
oh yeah, things were leaking, but even before then.
Yes, it was. Yes, exactly. It was leaking from people who were playing the game apparently as part of having a review copy, not even realizing that they were posting stuff to Twitter. Now it's, a lot of copies apparently are out there, and it is spreading fast, and it'd be very easy to get spoiled on this. We're still, it's next week when this game comes out? The
9th, so...
Yes, okay, so a little bit more than a week.
Yeah, a little bit more, but it's still next week.
Right, yes. That is, that's going to be a long, harsh wait for a lot of people. And the idea here is probably, or the ideal solution for most people is probably going to be mute as much God of War stuff across social media as you can, or just go on a social media blackout if it's something you really care about. Good news is, though, it seems like people are liking the game quite a bit. So if that's been your concern, well, good news. You're probably going to like it.
Yeah, that's my read on it, is that, without saying anything else, I like the game enough that I don't think spoilers would necessarily ruin the experience for me. Mm-hmm. But I also understand that people really just don't want to go into the game with any preconceived notions or information ahead of time.
Sure, absolutely. Moving along, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 it has the biggest Call of Duty launch on PlayStation Store ever. This came from Sony themselves. They said, "Congratulations to Infinity Ward and Activision on the biggest PlayStation Store launch ever for a Call of Duty game. It includes pre-orders and day one sales." That's I don't think that's too surprising. For one, this game seems like it was positioned to do very well, and we'll get into more details about that soon from the UK boxed physical charts. But also, like, digital sales are bigger than ever. The install base for consoles is getting up there for next gen consoles. So, and this is a game that people are into. At least there have been some complaints about Modern Warfare 2, not like there were complaints for Vanguard. So people are showing up for this one, and there's a lot of digital sales, and that makes sense. That now it's the biggest Call of Duty on PlayStation Store ever. Do you think this is a trend where when we see games come out like that, that physical sale is going to continue shrinking over time, and digital sales are just going to be bigger and bigger and bigger, especially as like the digital only PlayStation and the Xbox Series S become more and more popular?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just makes sense. It's easier. You don't have to go someplace to pick up a physical copy of the game. There's always going to be a place for physical copies. There is, if nothing else, there are going to be people who collect them, especially the
Yeah.
collector's editions with all the swag. But I'm too old to say the word swag. I know that. But
I think you pulled it
but
off,
yeah,
Morticia.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
I'm fine with I don't disdain digital releases. It's convenient, and you can play the game faster that way.
The game itself, though, also selling very well physically. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 physical sales up over 40% compared with Vanguard. Comes from Christopher Dring at GamesIndustry.biz. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 has posted a far better week at physical retail than last year's disappointing Call of Duty Vanguard. Sales of the new title are 42% up compared with Vanguard, and nearly 9% up over Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War from 2020. Sales are down 61% compared with 2019's Modern Warfare, although downloads have since become dominant, and digital sales data will be available later this week. 53% of box sales were on PS5, 29% on Xbox, and 18% on PS4. Although do note that Xbox tends to perform more strongly when it comes to digital market share. And of course, that comes to the Xbox Series S being pretty popular in the UK. So yeah, I mean, those numbers sound about right. I think 61% down for Modern Warfare sounds like a lot. And it's like, it's hard for me to imagine digital sales making up that entire thing, but it'll probably get it close enough to the point where, okay, this isn't a 2019 Modern Warfare level success, but it's that one tier behind that. And
Right,
it's,
yeah.
Modern Warfare 2019 was a huge sort of increase in excitement around Call of Duty. So if they're getting near there with every other game or whatever, they're probably going to be fine with Call of Duty well into the future, right?
I think so. And also consider they mentioned that physical sales are up. Do you think that's because they're selling more physical hardware? Because hardware sales are up recently.
Yeah, I think that a big part of buying the new Call, like Vanguard was the kind of game where when it came out, the word of mouth was pretty cool, and people people just weren't ready to go back to World War II, and so it was an easy one to skip, especially if you were still on old hardware and you were actively looking for new hardware, where it's like, man,
True.
I'm gonna get this, but I'm just gonna get it for the last gen console, and it's not even one I really want. It was probably a very easy one to skip. Now, since then, I think most people who would be there on day one for a Call of Duty have likely moved on to either a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or S, and now there's also this Call of Duty game that they want. So it's like it's this perfect storm of, I have the new hardware, I want a Call of Duty that I care about on this new hardware. That wasn't Vanguard, it is this, and so I think those two things matched up really nicely and helped propel this game forward quite a bit. Other sales details from the UK for the last week. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is the third biggest physical release of the year, behind FIFA 22 and Pokemon Legends Arceus. New at number 3 is the Nintendo Switch game Bayonetta 3. The Bayonetta series has always been a relatively niche title in the UK. The title's opening week performance is 4% up over the Switch port of Bayonetta 2, which was released in 2018. There have been a few signs that Switch games are starting to slow in the UK, with overall Switch physical sales down 9% year to date. Do you think that What do you think's happening there with Bayonetta? Do you think that it's the wait was a bit too long, or do you think that there's been like a huge chunk of digital sales that we're not hearing about? Because I think it's probably going to be a good number of digital sales for Bayonetta 3, and that up 4% is probably not the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Switch as well, it's much easier to get physical copies on digital copies on Switch
Mm-hmm.
than it is on other games necessarily. And like they mentioned, it is a little bit of a it is a little bit of a niche title. I mean, for all that the people who love it talk about it a lot, not that I'm speaking from experience necessarily, but for all that the people who love it talk about it a lot, it isn't exactly a blockbuster.
Right.
But it sounds like there's been enough positive word of mouth for it that that it's doing all right.
Yes.
And I do think that we have digital sales to account for too.
Exactly. And we'll hear about those here pretty soon. And, maybe the UK, it really isn't the audience for this. I think this game's probably going to do much better in North America and, of course, much better in Japan as well. And then on top of that, I think, once we get the digital numbers, that'll kind of increase the gap over the Bayonetta 2 port for Switch. Let's see. Last week's new Switch game, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope from Ubisoft, dropped 52% in sales week on week and falls from number 3 to number 7. That's a pretty good result for a second week, although the game's first week performance was down by more than half what its predecessor managed when Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battles released in August 2017. Again, that's physical, and I bet digital sales have almost certainly increased a huge number since 2017 on the Switch.
I would hope so.
The biggest new release last week was Warner Brothers' Gotham Knights, which this week saw a 73% sales fall and drops from number 2 to number 5. Meanwhile, Persona 5 Royal, which also released last week on a number of consoles, dropped from number 6 to number 15 after a 61% sales dip. And then Plague Tale Requiem, which was another new game from last week, dropped out of the top 40 altogether. So, that's a game that is on Game Pass, and I bet, if people had to buy the game on Xbox to play it as well, it probably would have stayed in the top 40, but since so many people can just try it on Game Pass, that's going to, cause some issues there.
That's fair.
Yeah, overall, though, these games are performing, I think, like how you would expect. Not too many big surprises. Gotham Knights there, a 73% drop. That's pretty big, but also the word of mouth on there kind of justifies a big drop from a lot of excitement due to the marketing, and then people start talking about it, and people are like, well, maybe I'll wait until it's on sale. That's almost certainly what happened there.
Yeah. I don't know whether or not I should feel bad since some of that word was from my mouth.
Hey, you got to just tell the truth. What can you do? Virtuos Studio Tour features a Metal Gear Solid art book. We'll get into why this matters here in a second. Virtuos is a French studio, I believe, based on this man's name, very much so. Louis-Alain Bossemenu so basically they're just showing off their studio, probably trying to attract talent. The rumor's been for a while that Virtuos is working on a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, and if you want to add fuel to that fire, go ahead and take a look at, actually I got to move it here. Let me bring up, there we go. Now you can see it. Let me cut there. If you're looking at the video, if you look in the bottom right of the news asset window, you'll see a book that looks like he's using as a coaster that says The Art of Metal Gear Solid on it. And, that could be coincidence, could be there for any number of reasons. It's probably there because they're making a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, though, right, Rachel?
Yes, absolutely. And I've got news for you, Jeff. I have that book, so
you're making one too?
I'm currently working on the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Yay!
Yay!
No,
listen, I'm of all the rumors that have been swirling about regarding Konami bringing back games, the Silent Hill rumors were true, but there were some Silent Hill rumors that weren't true. Like, for example, Kojima coming back to work on them. And that was a news story on some sites. That didn't happen. So it's easy to say, well, listen, yes, the Silent Hill ones were true. That doesn't mean these Metal Gear Solid ones are true as well. Well, there's definitely rumors that Kojima was also coming back to work with PlayStation and Konami on a Metal Gear Solid. That almost certainly isn't happening. This one, though, does seem like it's in the same vein as the accurate Silent Hill rumors. I believe that VGC's reported on this. Nate the Hate said some stuff about this. I'm ready to believe this one. Do you think this is game that is coming out relatively soon? And if it is, do you think because of the lineage of it being a Kojima game that we get it at the Game Awards, or because it's from Konami, who spurned Kojima, Jeff Keighley's best friend, we don't get it at the Game Awards? Where do you think we see this game?
Oh, that's tricky. The drama there,
Drama.
potential. Because if he does, I will say this: if the teaser trailer for this does premiere at the Game Awards, I feel like Kojima will be mysteriously absent.
Yeah, I like, or they'll like cut to his chair in the middle of it, and it'll be empty, and be like, oh, he just. It's like when you're watching a movie with your parents, and a sex scene's about to come on, so you go to the bathroom. Yeah. It's going to be like that. This will be the equivalent of a sex scene in the room with your parents for Kojima. We'll see. I still think that we will hear about this game pretty soon. I hope it comes out next year. I think
that would be my prediction. Well, I'll put it this way. I predict that is the release window that they will announce.
Yes.
I am not going to put money on it actually coming out next year.
Yes, very good point. I'm right there with you. I'm like, I think, we'll talk about some stuff that Microsoft's been talking about a good 2023. And I think that's a very easy thing to talk about now in the heady days of a very light 2022. But once we get when it comes down time to actually start releasing some games, I bet a lot of them still get pushed again. And Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake, could easily be among them. Yeah, if the game is real, but I'm leaning towards it that being the case. So
it sounds like it's probably real.
Yeah, and it's a good. I think it's a good choice. Metal Gear Solid 3 is beloved, and I think it's one that could also stand to have a remake. That's one where I think a lot of people played it originally, and then it got Subsistence. Chat, help me out here. Subsistence was the one that like changed the camera angle and improved it, and I bet many people did continue playing that version. But I bet a lot of people were like, well, I'd already played the original Metal Gear Solid 3. I don't need to play Subsistence. I think now sort of combining all the improvements they made with Subsistence and then making it feel like a more modern game overall, that could go a long way towards sort of reestablishing Metal Gear Solid as an important franchise and one that is an ongoing concern for Konami. And then, if Virtuos does well, there's Metal Gear Solid 4 waiting right there, ready to go, saying, hey, we need to put that game on other platforms, get it on the PC, get it on every console, put it on the Switch, for crying out loud. We'll see how it goes.
I remember just trivia.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a video for a while that somebody claimed was like a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, but it was actually just graphics taken from the pachinko version of the game. And people were like, were very upset about that because like, this is beautiful. We want this version of Metal Gear Solid 3. I'm like, and at the time, like, no, sorry.
That's really, really funny to me. Man, I should see if I can emulate the pachinko Metal Gear Solid 3. That sounds like a good time.
That would be a fun stream.
Absolutely. From let's see, from Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming, EA Motive Iron Man has started playtesting today. Sources have revealed that playtesting officially starts on October 31st and runs through November 2nd, and will be EA's one-on-one playtesting at one of its studios. Although these sessions are referred to as playtesting sessions, they are feedback sessions based on what Motive has planned for the Iron Man game. This is likely to include plot points, game mechanics, game modes, and more. It's not officially been stated how long Motive's Iron Man game has been in development, but playtests this early on from its announcement suggest it's been in pre-production for quite some time. So EA's been doing a lot of this stuff. I mean, there's been a ton of testing for Skate, which is where a lot of the leaks have come from. So it's not too surprising to hear that, hey, one thing we've heard about EA, and we talk about this a lot on this show, is they have begun applying methods of making games sort of uniformly across their business. Now, this doesn't mean everyone's got to make a live service game. They're not doing that. They're saying we have certain procedures that have helped every game become better. And I think they see that in these playtest sessions, and so they're applying that across the board as well. I mean, a lot of publishers do this, obviously, but the fact that like it seems very frequent with EA, it doesn't surprise me. It surprised me based on them trying to emulate what they've done with Respawn, and Respawn I think has done a lot of this as well. But this game is part of two Marvel games that EA is working on. The other one being Black Panther, which I reported on here before. They haven't confirmed that one. Iron Man, they have confirmed. Iron Man much further along, although it's probably still several years out. Hearing
Probably.
this, though, the fact that they have something to play test, something for people to go in there and give feedback on, suggests that it's probably nearing that alpha state at the very least of being playable, something that you could put in front of someone to at least give them an impression of what it's like. And if that's the case, I think a 2024 release doesn't seem out of the question. Do you have like a lot of high hopes that this game is coming and coming soon?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, not coming soon is a relative term,
Yes.
put it that way. Let's say I have hopes that it will come by 2024. Because if nothing else, I think it's a great concept for a game,
Yes.
and I'm curious to see how they do it, how they handle it, especially if we're still like riding on like the MCU Iron Man star power a little
Yeah.
bit. It will have cooled a little bit by then, so they are going to have to come with and I think they know that they are going to have to come with some interesting game mechanics, because I think by 2024 people, there are going to be far fewer people being like, yay, let's play a game with Iron Man, I love Iron Man, but there are going to be more people who are like, oh, Iron Man, haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah, and it's they have their own lineage within EA of creating games that feel like Iron Man in Anthem from BioWare, but this is from EA Motive. Like, who knows? And like they're making it in they're probably going to make this game in Unreal Engine. I don't know if they've confirmed that. I can't remember if Anthem was in Unreal Engine. I don't think it. No, it was. That was definitely still their Frostbite at the time. So it's like, will that stuff carry over? Or will that just be like inform what they do with this game? Will they bring in the people who designed the combat and the flight for Anthem and say, can you consult on this? Makes sense that they would want to do that. That'd be very cool, right?
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, because there was a lot that was disappointing about Anthem, but I don't think the flight mechanics were one of them.
Agreed.
But
Yes.
then again, it's been a long time since I've played Anthem, so I could have some rose-colored glasses.
Well, I think most people tend to agree. Whenever this comes up, that's the first thing people go to is, hey, it should feel like Anthem in terms of the flight. Just make that, and then make it an Iron Man game. I haven't heard anything along those lines, but it makes a lot of sense when it fits like that. Hopefully, you think that that work can just carry over. I don't know how easy that is. But hey, playtesting, usually that means we're gonna begin getting some dribbles of information about the game, and maybe if things go well, maybe we'll see this game soon as well alongside Metal Gear Solid 3. Phil Spencer, meanwhile, did an interview on a podcast where he talked about some things, and one of the big things he mentioned was that there's a big update coming to the Xbox PC app in the next 2 weeks. He said one thing we've heard loud and clear. Oh, this is the other quote real quick. First, let's just say, yeah. So he said the app is in dire need of a refresh. He said it's one of the things that they've heard, and that's one of their plans to kind of keep things keep good feelings among its fan base through the rest of this year, because he knows they don't have a lot of games. Along that line, he said one thing we've heard loud and clear is that it's been too long since we shipped what people would say was a big first-party game. He then went on to say that he expects 2023 to be much better, but he clearly knows that 2022 wasn't good enough. He then said, it's been a lighter year for a lot of companies. He said Nintendo's doing great, but a lot of other companies have been lighter this year. Yeah, there's new Call of Duty like normal, but not much else beyond that. He's like, he referenced the pandemic obviously causing problems with development, but he says we're kind of moving past that now, and now we're moving past the point of having good excuses. So 2023, we hope basically, and now I'm paraphrasing, not to have excuses and instead have games. The lineup for Microsoft for next year should definitely be Starfield, Redfall, Forza Motorsport, and then what else? The one that I think is most likely is Hellblade 2. Do you think that's possible?
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about Hellblade 2. I would be happy to see that. Yes.
Me too. I think it's the kind of thing where you go into the Game Awards. Hellblade was there last year. You do it one more trailer this year. Talk about a time frame. Say, hey, this is still. You just say the year, maybe 2023. It is coming 2023, and then get that out around the holidays. And then maybe one of those other games, like Perfect Dark, probably won't be ready. Avowed, maybe not. But there's a whole.
I haven't even heard from Avowed in a while.
Right, exactly. Those are the games. We will almost certainly get an update on all of those games, those kinds of games, Avowed, Perfect Dark, the rest at next year's E3. But you also hope that Hellblade, Forza Motorsport, Redfall, Starfield, 4 big games. That gets them close to their cadence of 1 big game per quarter. Still, it feels like maybe if one more of those can come out, that really puts them on that pace that they want to be hitting, especially if we go through the first quarter of next year and there's nothing. It's like, well, here's a makeup. Here's 2 in 1 quarter.
Then it's front-loading us a little bit.
Yeah, I think they can get there. And in the meantime, if they improve the PC app on Xbox, I know, I'm pretty sure Jason's listening right now. Jason has had such a headache getting the Xbox Game Pass app to work on PC. It's been like account issues and stuff like that. I had that for a very long time. Eventually, I just merged some stuff on the Microsoft side and I basically nuked one of my accounts and merged everything together into one. And that seemed to fix it for me, but that doesn't mean the app is still pleasant to use. It's kind of still a real annoying thing, which is those kinds of frictions to getting people into your like people will buy into your ecosystem because they're like, oh, Game Pass is a good deal. If using the app is just enough of a headache and it comes time to refresh to re-up their subscription, an annoying app is a good enough reason, I think, for a lot of people to be like, I'm not using that much. Whenever I try to install a game, it gives me errors. I don't want to deal with that. Yeah. They need to solve that, right?
Absolutely. I've also had errors for a while. For me, it's the problems are when I install a game, I play it for a little while, stop playing, come back the next day to play some more, and it's like, sorry, there's an error, we can't start the game. And I have to uninstall the game. Sometimes I've even had to uninstall the entire Game Pass app, reinstall the game. By the way, I remember the last time I was on, you asked me if I'd had Xbox stick drift issues.
Yeah.
I didn't at the time. 2 days after I was on there, I started getting a stick drift issue. You cursed me. So, yeah. But yeah, the Game Pass app, that is in dire need of a refresh.
Yes.
It just looks like something from the Xbox One era. It doesn't look like it's had an appropriate upgrade to go along with the Game Pass upgrade, because we've only had Game Pass for a relatively brief period of time, and I don't think the UI has upgraded to match it.
Yeah, and this is a kind of thing where they've acquired ZeniMax, which had ZeniMax, the Bethesda game launcher, and so they have a team that worked on that stuff and made a pretty decent launcher, and now they're going to be getting Blizzard here pretty soon, which was made Battle.net, which is pretty okay. It's like at a certain point, you're going to be they got rid of the Bethesda launcher, and so okay, you're getting rid of these other things that, of course, I want fewer launchers on my computer, of course I do, but I also want the ones that are left to be a decent experience, and hopefully they're using the expertise of these people they've acquired to help improve that experience overall. Also, they make Windows, so there's no excuse. Why is it so bad? It doesn't make any sense.
It's like this is just a mess.
All right, let's see here. Hideki Kamiya says he's forever indebted to Nintendo for Bayonetta 3. In an interview with Famitsu, translated by Nintendo Everything, the creator talked about the inception of the game, which began life after their previous project, Scalebound, was canceled by Microsoft. Kamiya also revealed that Platinum Games CEO Atsushi Inaba requested that he make a video for Nintendo to show the platform holder how excited the team was about the project. He said he wanted to show the creator's passion directly, Kamiya told Famitsu. The creator also spoke about how Nintendo's treatment of his Bayonetta 2 story, which Kamiya says Nintendo kept intact mostly, encouraged him to return to the franchise. I wanted to expand the world even further for the fans, and also wanted to challenge myself. That's why I was really happy that we were able to make the third game. I'm not exaggerating when I say I'm forever indebted to Nintendo. Kind of nice to hear that things like, this is a studio that was working on a game with Microsoft that fell apart for whatever reason. Sounds like they just, honestly, language barrier was a big problem for Microsoft and Japanese studios at the time. Microsoft now has people ingrained in Japan with studios and offices there to handle these things to make sure that doesn't happen again. But that left Platinum Games sort of in the lurch and left them in a situation where, they're looking around for their next paycheck. Nintendo stepping up saying, make Bayonetta 3. I bet that did really help out that studio and make sure that they could keep their doors open. And now Bayonetta 3 is here, and it's a very good game by all accounts. I know that you are a big Bayonetta fan. Are you happy? Are you forever indebted to Nintendo to ensuring Bayonetta 3 came out? Is that how much you're feeling about that game, or what?
Indebted to Nintendo for keeping the lights on at Bayonetta full stop, with the Bayonetta team full stop, because they're the reason we have Bayonetta 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I still find it the funniest thing is that nobody expected Nintendo to step in and take over like the stewardship of Bayonetta. Out of all franchises, this sort of racy, not incredibly so, but kind of racy
Yeah.
franchise. And it amuses the heck out of me that they tried to make when Bayonetta 2, when they've got the Nintendo costumes, they tried to make them a little bit more conservative, and it was Nintendo who stepped in and said, "Oh, no, 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 no. No, we want these to be sexy."
Hmm.
And, it almost feels like Nintendo wanted something a little bit that you didn't expect. And I get the impression that the last person who expected Nintendo to step in was Hideki Kamiya,
Right.
and he seems almost most positively surprised by it, and I'm happy for him.
Oh man.
And yeah, as far as Bayonetta 3 goes, I am just glad it's here because we were talking about this before the show. I've been playing a lot of it. I've been savoring it because Nintendo jail. I didn't get a review code, but I did. Yeah, I did have I am savoring the experience of playing a Bayonetta game for the first time in 8 years.
Yeah, God, when you think about 8 years, that is
Yeah.
kind of incredible. Uh, sorry, I'm seeing the little bit of news dropped, and we'll get to it here in a second. I'm trying to I'm realizing
Okay.
I never installed Signal on my new phone, and so I might have been getting like messages from
It's okay.
sources, and I've completely forgot about it. Let's do that.
It's
There
like
we
which
go.
phone you got your
Yeah,
burner phone for your information.
exactly. Let's just do that, and then I will text him here in a second. See if we can find out about that. Okay, let's keep moving. Japan
Okay.
simply isn't enough anymore, as Square Enix calls global market a critical priority. This comes from Robert Ramsey at Push Square. The industry really has changed, hasn't it? It's no secret that the big Japanese publishers, Capcom, Sega, and Square Enix, are largely looking to the West these days, as their home nation seems to distance itself more and more from traditional console gaming. Whether it's enforcing global release dates or going all in on Western marketing, the change in approach has been dramatic over the last half a decade or so. And it's Square Enix that paints a clear picture of this new direction. In the company's annual overview for 2022, President Yosuke Matsuda goes out of his way to stress the importance of appealing to a global market. Achieving major growth in the games industry is difficult now for companies that compete primarily in the Japanese market, given its graying demographics. I think that means people are getting older. That's probably what graying demographics means, right?
Sounds like it, yeah.
As such, it is critical for our business that we produce hit titles that speak to the global market, which offers greater scales in terms of both customers and sales volumes. So then it makes sense that Square Enix will want to sell its Western studios a few months ago. This is a weird publisher. Can we just,
Hmm.
even when like this makes sense. It's hard to compete. It's hard to make enough money making modern games that are bigger, more expensive than ever, and then only sell to Japan, where PlayStation is like the PlayStation 4 was a global smash hit, and it sold
Yeah.
kind of okay in Japan. People just
Right.
had moved on from traditional home consoles. So it makes sense. But then how does that make sense with, okay, you had some studios that could do globally appealing games, and you never really fully supported them. You seem to sort of cut out the feet from under them. And then when you kind of gave up on them, your
Hmm.
solution was, let's just sell them. And now a few months later, you're saying how much you need the kinds of games that those studios were making. Now, I know the profit margins on those studios was never great, and that makes sense why you would get rid of them, I suppose. But then to come around and say this, like, what is the solution here for your Japanese studios to appeal globally? Obviously, Final Fantasy 14 is one answer, and that's going to continue to be an answer. Final Fantasy 16
True.
seems like it should be globally appealing, but then after that, what is the answer here? And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like a lot of Square Enix in particular is it's a very Japanese appeal centric. It appeals to the sensibilities of the Japanese audience, and it does. Yeah, it makes sense that that a Western audience would pick up on that, as in like adopt some of those same sorts of appeals. Uh, Let me start again. It's made for Japanese audiences. Western audiences might like aspects about it, but the fact remains, it's still made. A lot of the stuff is still made for a Japanese audience.
Yes. Yeah, and it's and I think
That's a
that,
culture shift.
yeah, but also at the same time, I think that games that are more Japanese than ever, maybe this isn't true. Okay, so the Japanese games are succeeding worldwide and they're not doing that by making wholesale shifts to being like Western games. They are maybe making some concessions to a global audience, being a little bit more friendly, and I suppose you could point to something like Monster Hunter World as an example of that, but that is still a very Japanese game. I think Elden Ring still a very Japanese game. A massive breakout though for them, and you could see the Western RPG influence inside of Elden Ring, of course, but it is very specifically not Skyrim. It is a game that feels completely like it came from a Japanese culture. And so you're like, when you try to apply that to what Square Enix does, can they pull that off with some of their stuff? Like, I don't know. I think Final Fantasy 16 will do that, but then they just released a handful of games this past year, and not more than a handful. They've released quite a few games over this past year, and a lot of them were smaller and niche. And I'll say that their problems probably are not that they weren't globally appealing. Their problems were just that they released like 3 or 4 strategy RPGs back to back to back, and at a certain point, you're gonna get diminishing return on those sales, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see if exactly what this means long term. Of course, Square Enix, one of their answers to this is we are going to sell off pieces of our studios and work with partners to help fund our games going forward, which is such a weird thing. I don't fully understand what that looks like. They keep saying that that's what they're going to do. I don't know. And does that mean there's going to be influence from these investors, or is this just going to be like a way for them to get extra money? Who knows? We haven't seen how it will play out yet, but that continues to be their financial strategy, and we need to kind of see how that goes before we can really predict what the future of Square Enix is going to hold.
Yeah, you make a good point.
Let's go with IKEA threatens legal action over furniture store survival game. This comes from Matthew Humphreys at PC Mag. A solo indie studio game developer is facing legal action by IKEA over his unreleased furniture store survival game. Let me turn down the volume there. The game is called The Store is Closed, and it's described as a co-op survival game set in an infinite furniture store. The player is trapped in the store and tasked with finding their way out, either alone or with the help of friends. Of course, it's not named, the store inside the game is not named IKEA. It's like Styr, S-T-Y-R, Styr. Right. But it has that blue and yellow logo, and that caused IKEA to send a cease and desist saying you're using our trademarked color scheme, I suppose, which I guess you could probably trademark something like that. The game is in Kickstarter right now, and the creators says they don't see any other option other than to abide by the cease and desist, which gives them 10 days to change the assets. I wonder if they could just like make the color scheme red and black, and that would be enough. Yeah. Or is IKEA going to be? Yeah. I hope that's the case, because it looks fun. It looks like a cool game.
Yeah, and I think somebody in the comments mentioned it too. My first thought was, that's an SCP, isn't it? That's based on one of the SCP stories of an infinite inescapable IKEA.
Yeah, there was I don't know. I actually don't know what that's a reference to, but I saw SCP when I was looking into the story. What is that?
Oh gosh, we're gonna dive down a rabbit hole here.
Just give me the short version. Yeah.
A collection of internet horror stories,
right? Okay.
Internet created horror stories, and one of them sort of like the back rooms kind of, and one of them that they came up with is sort of an inescapable infinite IKEA that people eventually go mad trying to get out of it.
Right. Okay. And everyone's mad at me for asking this, because I think Jess might have explained it in front of me to Dan a few weeks back, and you know,
it's okay.
I zoned out. It sounded familiar, and now that you said that, that's exactly what she said too. So now I know. This time it's gonna stick, everybody. I promise. I hope this game survives, and if the color scheme changes, I'll survive, and because I really want to play this game. It looks like a good time especially playing it with friends, or playing it for work. I'll love that. Nibel is done. Nibelian on Twitter is no more. They wrote in a post on their Patreon, which is also coming to an end. Today, I will move on from both Twitter and Patreon. There won't be any more games coverage from me on either platform. Now, if you were wondering who Nibel is, you're probably not on Twitter. You're probably not following games coverage on Twitter, which is fine. I just want to give a little backstory. Nibel is the person that I would describe them as one of like the superstars on Twitter of like gaming Twitter. They collect and aggregate news about everything happening in games, and if you want to keep up on, like, if a new trailer drops or a new showcase drops, you go to Nibel if you want the Cliff's Notes version. They will put stuff in bullet points and let you know right away what's going on, and they did a great job of keeping up and being very fast and very thorough and very accurate. Recently, Nibel tried to turn this into a business, tried to make money on it, and started a Patreon, and basically it just didn't go the way they were hoping. I've learned a lot in a short period of time. Unfortunately, I was not able to create an interesting and sustainable Patreon, which is evident in the number of patrons stagnating during the first week and the first of many pledges being deleted during the first week. I have miscalculated the value of my Twitter activity and realized that it is nothing worth supporting by itself for the vast majority of people. It is not me who is popular, but it is the work that is useful. It is not valuable by itself, but a comfortable time saver, and I get that now. I was unable to create a reliable revenue stream, but I'm still happy I gave it a shot. I want to thank everybody on here who gave me a shot as well. I'll look into refunds for recent payments. Have already deactivated the billing and will likely close this page this week. So yeah, closing the Patreon, but also just leaving Twitter. Yeah, we'll bring that up. It's sad, and it speaks to a fundamental problem with social media platforms. Nibel really is a reason to come on Twitter. If you were someone who cares about gaming, you could very quickly keep up with the news just by following Nibel. And that's a service. And it's a feature of Twitter, and it's a feature created by one of the users. And what did they get out of it? Nothing. They got zero out of it. By creating value for Twitter, they got no value themselves. And of course, part of that is the way that people are going to assess value over a Twitter account that they follow, which is, the Twitter feels cheap. It feels like it should be free, and it feels like everything should be just on there for you to consume at your will without having to think much about it. And if something goes away, you won't even notice. We're going to notice the absence of Nibel on games Twitter, I think, and it's a real loss.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, you got to consider, sometimes it's good to keep in mind that there's a person behind this account.
Absolutely.
And they need to work a full-time job. They need to make money. They need to pay bills. And yeah, it sucks that they weren't able to, and I don't think this is their fault at all. This is just
it's a platform issue.
This is the difficult thing to turn into a business, but it sucks that wasn't able to happen so that they can keep doing, because nobody does what Nibel does for as long as they did without enjoying it.
Yeah.
So I think they did enjoy it, but if there comes a point when you've got to decide between doing something you like for no money and money.
Yeah.
Basically.
And it's if you look at the equivalent, if someone had the stardom and the attention that Nibel has on Twitter, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, they would be making a lot of money. More money on YouTube than those other ones, just because YouTube has revenue sharing. But if you command an audience on Instagram, you can make money. If you command an audience on TikTok, you can make money. There is no real answer for that on Twitter. They've been struggling to figure it out themselves, and it doesn't seem like they are going to have any answers going forward based on the new ownership, obviously. Nibel also said, like, Elon Musk taking over the company was another reason for him to go. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I can't say I blame him.
Affiliate links is what Nylock says, and that's what Wario64 does. But that's a whole other sort of set of capabilities as a person. Like, you can be good at keeping up with the news, but then figuring out, okay, now what affiliate links are going to be worth my time. It's just it doesn't seem like something they were interested in doing or pursuing, which can't blame them.
Yeah, I really can't, but again, I understand, but I'm gonna miss him.
Yep, same here. Let's see. Let's hit this one, and then there's a new story that popped up. We'll get to that in a second. Tesla offered Sam Barlow payment in exposure to add her story to a vehicle. This is from Sam Barlow on Twitter. Tesla once reached out to ask to put her story in a car. I asked how much they would pay for the license and to cover the engineering work. They suggested $0. That I consider the exposure, and then I should consider the exposure I would get. He then followed up, her story in a car remains one of the silliest ideas I've ever heard.
Well, yeah.
What is wrong with Elon
Well, I
Musk?
mean, to be fair, Elon Musk is out $40 billion.
Right? Yeah. And he's just the richest man in the world. But I mean, come on. You want his money? You want his money? You didn't earn that. He'll give you exposure. Jesus Christ.
I think I slurred there. I said billion. I think I might have it sounded like million, but yeah.
Everyone knows what you meant, or at least I know what you
Yeah.
meant. It's yeah, this is absurd. It makes me mad. I wish that they would just stop. I wish they would just stop. Could someone stop him? Stop him, please.
Well, I mean, what a game to put. I mean, I understand that, with Tesla, because I actually rode in a Tesla in an Uber not too long ago, and I've never actually ridden in a Tesla before because, I ain't making that much money.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing how big the screen is, and I was just like, that is obnoxious. Take it away.
Yeah. It is,
But
and it like sticks up too. It's like sticks into the
yeah,
middle of everything.
all I
Whatever.
can think is like, Jesus, I didn't really want to travel with my tablet glued to the side of my face. That's what it felt like.
Yep.
But I mean that's a personal preference, but the problem is her story is a game where you really have to pay attention to what's going on. You have
Yeah.
to, you have to do a lot of investigative work. You have to be willing to scrub through things to find specific clues. It doesn't really seem like a game that is best suited to being in even a self-driving car. It feels like, even in a self-driving car, you got so many distractions around
I
you.
don't even know if the game would work in either of those, like in a driving mode. I know that one of the big reasons they do this is because it takes about a half an hour to do a significant charge to the battery in most places. So what they do is like, oh, we'll put games in there. You can play games while you wait for your car to charge, since you're going to be waiting for a bit. And it's like, oh man, that's not a great solution to this problem. That just sort of it feels like admitting that there is no solution to the charging length problem. But hey, I mean, well, whatever. There's obvious benefits to electric cars. I'm not really complaining there. It's just like this specific idea of covering up with some just paste some video games on top and people won't notice. It's like most people are still going to be annoyed by the charging times, of course.
Yeah. I'm just the audacity of it. It's like, being approached, for your popular adventure game, like, we'll put your game in our car. It's like, pay me for it. No. You
Sorry.
should be grateful you should be grateful we're even asking you. Like that's the implication of we'll pay you in exposure is you should be grateful we're even
Yes,
offering you this.
that's exactly
And
what it is. Yep.
it's like if you turn the mirror slightly and you can see behind it and it's like, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the implication there that Sam should be grateful for even the suggestion. And like you said, it's just a silly idea.
Yep. From the beginning. Let's see here. Bloomberg has a report here that there are that Electronic Arts strikes a 3-game deal with Marvel. One of them is Iron Man. The other one is Black Panther. As for what the other one is, I don't know. I just asked. We'll find out. We'll see if we can find out before the end of the show. Who knows? But this story's behind a paywall, and I don't have time to get around it right now. But yeah, when I asked about this originally, like, okay, EA just did the Star Wars thing, and now they're going to Marvel. That seems strange. The way it was explained to me is like, yeah, it might seem strange, but this is not an exclusive deal, for one thing. A lot of people are going to keep making Marvel games. And the other is for like from EA's perspective, working with an established franchise is actually still worth the money, as opposed to trying to start a new IP from scratch. Like they'll do that, but they're not going to do that 3 games at a time. When you want to say, hey, we like 3 big games, big AAA games, having the safe bet of a Marvel franchise attached to that is still valuable to EA. And EA is also promising to get these games done and deliver them on time, and making a lot of promises to Disney that Disney wants to hear, which is not what happened with Star Wars. So yeah, this deal seems fine to me. Black Panther, Iron Man. Do you have a preference for the third one? Because I want Howard the Duck. I want them to go weird.
Oh yes, Howard the Duck. That would be good and weird. Somebody mentioned Squirrel Girl in the
Yes,
chat.
that's actually
That
a really good one.
yeah, no, not even an exaggeration. I would be down for that.
Yes.
I really want them to make something off the wall because Black Panther, Iron Man, those
Right.
are at the moment at least, those are 2 big Marvel heavy hitters. So we've already got a Wolverine game coming. We've had Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think who from I mean any other kind of any other game would be sort of going into the X-Men
Yeah,
demographic.
I think I just want an X-Men team game.
Yes,
That's actually kind of what I
I would
want.
be happy about that.
Maybe even from BioWare, but I know BioWare is very busy. That's not going to happen. Um,
Yes,
but
yes.
but yeah, I think that'd be very cool. Make it like a big, basically an RPG, an action RPG, of course. But I think that could. Oh, the Incredible Hulk,
Someone mentioned
Ultimate Destruction 2. That would rule.
somebody mentioned Daredevil, and I'm like, oh, yes,
Yeah, that
I
could be
love
neat.
Daredevil.
Yes, Jan, man, they will do your boy Cyclops justice. I'm sure they will.
Oh, yeah.
Jan, I played so much Marvel Snap over the weekend. It got way worse. It got so much worse. That was kind of all I was doing.
I'm not even touching it. I can't afford to be invested in another mobile game. Merge
so
Mansion
much.
already like raided my wallet. I can't get into another one, and if it's Marvel, I'm going to get even more addicted. No, I can't do it.
It's okay. I need to. I'm enjoying it, but it's also keeping me away from other games. Honestly, that's not fair. It's not keeping me away from other games. My brain right now is having a hard time focusing on games, and
Mhm.
Marvel Snap has been the solution. It's like I want to play games. I sit down to play a game, and my mind is just feeling like I get distracted very easily. Marvel
Mhm.
Snap is the answer to that for me right now, where it's like I want to play a game. This is a game that I can handle with my brain right now. So honestly,
That makes sense. Yeah.
mostly thankful that I have Marvel Snap. All right, let's move on to the polls here. Will Persona 6 have a global simultaneous launch? Lots of people mad at me because then I put in parentheses Japan and North America at the same time. It's not exclusively, but yeah, whatever. Yell at me. 70.4% said yes. 29.6% said no. I think the high number here is because Sega and Atlas have basically said as much at this point.
Yeah.
Still all that, like, even when they say it, I feel like they've been so weird with Persona that I don't blame 29.6% of people saying no. You're still gonna have to wait, or it's gonna be some weird exclusive thing. That
That's fair.
honestly could still happen. They're big games, and localization is a lot of effort. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I trust the localization team, whatever, over at Atlas to get that project done in such a way that they feel like they can release them both at the same time. But we'll see. That's what they've done with the
Fingers
recent
crossed. I hope
Shin
so.
Megami Tensei games. Yes, fingers crossed. Absolutely. And then the new poll. Let's just put
Oh,
this
here we go.
inside. Do you/did you come to Twitter for video game news? Game Mess Decides. We'll talk about this on Wednesday. I don't know.
I mean, I do have.
What's your relationship to Twitter and like keeping up with the things you care about?
Um, honestly, it's depended on who I've worked for in the past. Like when I was a freelancer, Twitter was like my major source of news all
Right.
day, every day. Now I tend to rely on like the sources that I get personally and like to my email especially. But I will still go to Twitter because just as everyone besides me is also hustling to get news. So a lot of times somebody that I know will break news. I mean, it's gonna be weird with Nibel not being there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Just not yeah, it's gonna break my heart, but I probably will still go to Twitter for news. Although um, I did say over the weekend that because people are talking about leaving Twitter, I'm like, I'm not leaving Twitter. I'm staying until either Elon goes or the site gets taken down.
Yeah, I'm feeling mostly that way.
I'm stubborn.
I will probably leave if the Nazis take over. That's probably when I'll leave.
Fair.
I don't want to deal with that too much, but you, we need to wrap up here
I
pretty soon. But the reality is, and I know it's very easy to shoot holes in this, but Twitter got pretty okay in the last couple of years. If you go to the like the trending thing over here, which you might not be able to see, like what's happening. One of the first things you're going to see in what's happening every day is Twitter debunking a rumor, a fake news story before it spreads. Like it's one of the best sources for debunking these things before they become widespread and take over stuff. Now, of course, they're still like inside of echo chambers, they're still doing that. But Twitter's been one of the main reasons that these things have been getting nipped in the bud quicker than they had in the past. And honestly, my interactions with, and maybe this is because I'm verified and I have the filter bad people, but my interactions with Nazis has been very infrequent compared to what it was on Twitter in 2018 and before that. I think Twitter got pretty
This is
good.
true.
It's obviously going to be bad in the future, and that's a
Yeah.
bummer. And if it's if it causes me stress, I'll get off of there. For now, my take on it is I'm just going to try to ignore the fire over here and just say this is fine and do my best to just use it as I have been, because for the most part, paying attention to things I hate anyhow was never a good thing for me. So I will just continue operating in a way where I can ignore that stuff. But yeah.
That's true. And I just want to stay so that it can be like me and Elon at the end, is sort of I have no mouth and I must scream scenario.
Absolutely.
So,
I appreciate you taking that responsibility on for the rest of us.
I have enough spite to power me for generations.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Rachel, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween. Thanks to Jason for producing the show in the background. Thank you to everybody watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.